He shook his head and told me it wasn't my fault. None of this was my fault. The words made my throat tighten until it hurt. I felt years of confusion and emptiness rising inside me all at once. He said he had always felt like someone was missing from his life. He grew up with a constant ache he couldn't name. Every birthday he would look at the empty chair across the table. Every family photo felt incomplete. He said he didn't understand why. Not until he saw an adoption record. A single line that mentioned a second infant. A twin unaccounted for. Me. My hands trembled as I tried to process everything he was saying. I asked him why our birth parents never kept us together. His voice cracked as he explained. Our birth mother was struggling. She couldn't afford to raise 2 babies alone. 2 separate families had come forward. A couple in another state chose Liam. And my adoptive parents chose me. But there was more. My adoptive parents had been told about Liam. They knew I had a twin. They chose not to tell me. The betrayal cut deep. I felt something inside me split. My adoptive mother began crying so hard she could barely breathe. She kept repeating, "We were scared, we didn't want to lose you." Her fear didn't excuse the truth she buried. My adoptive father sat down heavily like the truth had finally crushed him. He admitted they were afraid the original family might try to take me back. He said they convinced themselves not telling me was the best way to protect me. Protect me. But keeping my twin from me was never protection. It was a wound that had lived under my skin for years. His adoptive parents were kind but strict. He said holidays were loud, crowded, full of cousins and noise. But even in the chaos, he always felt a strange emptiness. Like half of him was somewhere else. He said he dreamed about me. Dreams of running through fields with someone beside him. Dreams of laughing with a shadow that looked like him. And he'd wake up crying without knowing why. Hearing that made my eyes sting with tears. I had always felt the same emptiness. Like part of me was missing. Like something important had been ripped away. The room felt heavier than ever. I finally asked him the question that had been burning inside me. Why now? Why today? Why did he show up after all these years? Liam took out another envelope from his pocket. Inside was a DNA test result. His handwriting was on the edges. A note. I found you. He said he had been searching through every database, every adoption record, every possible connection, until finally the test matched to me. He found my name, my city, my address. He stood outside my door for 30 minutes, too scared to knock, too scared I'd reject him. When he finally did knock, his heart was pounding so hard he thought he might faint. My adoptive mother started sobbing again quietly. My adoptive father whispered, "I'm sorry," over and over. But apologies couldn't erase years. Liam reached across the table. Slow, gentle, careful. He didn't touch me. He just held his hand halfway. Like an invitation, not a demand. I took a shaky breath and placed my hand in his. The moment our hands touched, something powerful surged through me. Like a missing piece clicking into place. Just 2 brothers reunited after a lifetime apart. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know how to fix the broken parts of my past. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. The air in the room felt too heavy to breathe. I pulled my hand back slowly, not because I didn't want him near me, but because my emotions were crashing into each other too fast. I stood up and paced across the living room, trying to steady myself. Every step felt like walking through memories that never existed. My adoptive mother tried to reach for me, but her hands trembled. She whispered my name like it was breaking inside her. But I couldn't look at her. Not yet. Not when the truth still burned so painfully. I swallowed hard and asked Liam what he wanted from me now. He answered softly, "I just want to know you. Not to replace your family. Not to erase your past. I only want the chance we never got." His words landed gently, but they still cut through every wall I'd built. I turned toward the window because I couldn't hold his gaze. Outside, the sky was fading into evening. The streetlights flickered on one by one. The world kept moving even though mine had stopped. My adoptive father finally spoke, his voice raw and defeated. He said that when they brought me home, they promised themselves they would give me a new life, a safe life, a life untouched by the pain of my past. So they erased it. Every bit of it. They convinced themselves that hiding the truth was love. But love without truth is just fear wearing a mask. I asked him why he never told me when I grew older, when I was old enough to handle it. He looked at me with eyes full of years of regret. He said every time he thought about telling me, he imagined losing me. He didn't judge. He just let me feel everything. I finally asked him how he felt about all of this. He took a long, slow breath. He said he had spent years being angry at the world, angry at the universe for splitting us. But meeting me made all that anger disappear. He said the only thing that mattered now was that we had finally found each other. He wasn't looking to take anything from me. He wasn't jealous. He wasn't vengeful. He just wanted a chance to build what we lost. His voice cracked when he said, "I missed you my whole life." I had no memories with him, yet hearing those words broke me open. A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. I wiped it away quickly, embarrassed. But Liam smiled softly, like he understood, like he felt it too. I finally sat down again because my legs felt too weak to stand. Liam leaned forward and asked if I wanted to know more about our birth mother. The room went silent. My heart thumped painfully. I nodded. He told me she was young, terrified, alone. She had no support, no home, no stability. She had been told adoption would give us both a better life. But she never imagined we would be separated. When she found out, she tried to fight. She tried to get us back. But the system took over. Paperwork, agencies, families ready to adopt. Everything moved too fast. She was shut out. Liam's voice softened. He said she never stopped thinking about us. She wrote letters. Letters that were never sent. Letters the agency kept hidden. Letters Liam had found only recently. Then he pulled out, "And I pray the world will bring you back to each other. I love you, more than you will ever know." I pressed the letter to my chest, trying to hold myself together. Tears streamed down my face before I could stop them. For the first time in my life, I felt the love of a woman I never met. A woman who had carried me. A woman who had lost me. My adoptive mother sobbed quietly. She whispered she never knew. She never knew our birth mother had fought. That she had written letters. That she had begged. The truth hit her harder than anyone else. Liam rested a gentle hand on my shoulder. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I felt it. All of it. Grief, hope, love, pain, connection. Everything tangled together. And then something inside me shifted. I didn't know what my future with Liam looked like. I didn't know how to rebuild trust with my adoptive parents. But I knew one thing. I wanted to understand my past. I wanted to understand him. I wanted to understand me. I looked at Liam. Really looked. And for the first time, I smiled, a small, weak but real smile. He smiled back. Two brothers finally finding each other. After a lifetime apart. The room became quiet in a way that didn't feel empty. It felt like the kind of silence that comes after a storm. The kind where you're still shaking but the air finally feels breathable. Liam sat across from me, watching me carefully. Not pushing, not rushing, not expecting. Just being there. Something I didn't realize I needed until that moment. My adoptive parents sat together on the couch. My mother still wiping tears. My father staring at the floor like he was but I could hear the fear in his voice. Fear of losing me. Fear of what the truth might do to our relationship. I didn't have answers for him. I didn't have answers for myself. But I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. I turned to Liam and told him I wanted to know everything. Everything about his life. His parents. His childhood. His struggles. His memories. Everything I missed. He looked relieved, like he had been holding a breath for years and could finally let it out. He said he lived in Ohio most of his life. A quiet neighborhood with big trees that turned bright orange in autumn. He talked about riding his bike around the block for hours, playing basketball with kids after school. How he always felt like something was pulling him in another direction. He said his adoptive parents were good people, strict but loving. They taught him discipline, responsibility, respect. But even with all of that, He grew up with a sense of longing he couldn't explain, like someone was missing, someone he was supposed to grow beside. Every year on his birthday, he blew out his candles and wished for the same thing, to find whatever part of him he had lost. Listening to him felt like listening to echoes of my own childhood. I grew up in a warm home, a safe home, but always with this empty space inside me, this quiet question, this invisible shadow. Now I knew it was him. I told him about my childhood, my life, my school, my small victories, my quiet fears. I told him how growing up I would sometimes turn my head suddenly, feeling like someone was supposed to be there beside me, someone I couldn't name. He smiled softly. He said he felt that same, sometimes just staring at us as if they were seeing something they had never imagined. At one point Liam leaned back and asked if I wanted to take a drive with him, just to get some air, to talk without the weight of the house. I hesitated, not because I didn't trust him, but because my world had just turned upside down and stepping outside felt terrifying. Still, something inside me said go. My adoptive parents didn't argue. They didn't stop me. My mother placed her hand on mine. Her touch was gentle, full of fear but also full of love. She said, "Please come home. No matter what you find, please come home." I nodded, but I didn't promise. I stood up and followed Liam out the door. The cool evening air hit my face like a shock. Felt grounding, real, necessary. We walked to his car slowly, like neither of us wanted to break the fragile peace between us. He drove us to a small park nearby, the kind with old wooden benches and tall trees that whispered when the wind passed. We sat on a bench under a dim streetlight. For a moment we didn't speak. We just breathed, existing beside each other in a silence that felt strangely natural. Then he asked me the question I had been avoiding. Do you hate them? My adoptive parents. Do you hate what they did? The question hit me hard. I stared at the ground for a long time, gathering the answer from places inside me I had never visited. I told him I didn't hate them, but I hated the choices they made. I hated the years we lost. I hated the memories we never got. But no, I couldn't hate the people who raised me, fed me, held me, and I felt something blooming inside me. Connection, recognition, a bond that had been waiting for years. He smiled softly. You and I, we have a chance to build something. We can't change the past, but we don't have to let it define us. A warmth spread through my chest. For the first time since he knocked on my door, I felt hope, real hope. Maybe we could fix this. Maybe we could rebuild. Maybe we could learn who we were. Together, we stayed on that bench long after the sun disappeared. The quiet between us wasn't awkward. It felt like the kind of silence that fills the spaces between people who belong together, even if we were only starting to understand what that meant. A breeze moved through the branches above us, soft, cool, steady, and for the first time all day my mind didn't feel like it was spinning. Liam leaned back slightly and looked up at the sky. He said he used to imagine that somewhere under the same stars, his twin was out there, living a life he wanted to be part of. A life connected to his. The thought made my chest tighten. All those years, both of us wondering, both of us feeling that strange pull, both of us searching without even knowing who we were searching for. I told him I sometimes sat on my porch at night feeling lonely for no reason, like something was missing even when everything felt okay. He nodded. He understood. He always understood. I asked him what he thought would happen now. What our future was supposed to look like. His expression softened. He said we didn't need to rush into defining anything. We could take it one moment at a time. Get to know each other. Talk. Share. Heal. There was no pressure. Just potential. Something about he slept with his window slightly open no matter the season. Just like I always had. It was uncanny. Beautiful. Strange. Like we were two versions of the same story. Split by circumstance, but still echoing each other across time. After a while Liam asked if I wanted to meet his adoptive parents someday. I paused, not because I didn't want to, but because the idea felt overwhelming. He assured me there was no pressure. He said they knew about me, He told them after he got the DNA results. They cried. They hugged him. They told him to find me. They didn't try to stop him. They didn't hide anything. They wanted him to know his truth. And they wanted me to know mine. Hearing that felt like a stab and a bomb at the same time. A reminder of what I didn't get. A reminder of what Liam did. He saw the flicker of emotion cross my face. He reached over. Not touching me. Just close enough that I felt his presence. He told me that no family was perfect. Not even his. They just made different mistakes. When he said that, something inside me loosened. A knot I didn't realize was there. Eventually we left the park and drove around aimlessly. Past quiet houses. Flickering porch lights. Dogs barking somewhere in the distance. Felt peaceful. Safe. Simple. He asked if I wanted to see something. I said yes. He drove us to a small lake. The water was dark but calm. The moon stretched long across it. He told me he used to come here when he felt overwhelmed. When he felt lost. When he wanted answers. He said he imagined me sitting beside him. Even when he didn't know who I was. The kind of conversation that feels like catching up on a lifetime. Because that's what we were doing. At one point he said he hoped we could make new memories together. Fix what was broken. Not erase the past. But build something stronger. I felt a warmth settle in my chest. Something steady. Something new. Something familiar. I told him I wanted that. I wanted all of it. A fresh start. A real connection. A chance to rewrite what life had taken from us. When he smiled, it felt like seeing my own smile reflected back. We drove back to my house late into the night. The lights were off. The neighborhood quiet. I didn't know what waited for me inside. But for once, I didn't feel alone walking toward the door. Liam walked me up the porch steps. He said he didn't want to overwhelm me. He would give me whatever space I needed. But he wasn't going anywhere. Not now. Not ever. I nodded. My throat too tight to speak. He gave me one last soft, steady look. A look that said, "You have me. You're not alone." Then he walked back to his car. And I stood there watching him drive away. Feeling something I had been searching for my whole life. A piece of myself. Finally found. I stood on the porch long after Liam's car disappeared around the corner. The night felt colder without him beside me. But it wasn't an empty cold. It was the kind that makes you aware of yourself. The kind that wakes you up. I finally walked inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My adoptive parents were sitting in the living room waiting for me. My mother's eyes were red. I wanted to believe everything could go back to normal. But normal didn't exist anymore. Not after today. I told them I needed space. Time. They agreed without argument. Almost too quickly. Like they feared pushing me would push me away permanently. I went to my room. Closed the door quietly. And sat on the edge of my bed. The silence pressed in from all sides. But for once it didn't feel lonely. Felt like a pause. A breath. A moment before everything began again. I pulled the letter from my pocket. The one our birth mother wrote. Her handwriting wavered under the lamplight. Those words hit harder now that I had stepped away from the chaos. Two halves of one heart. I traced the edges of the paper. Imagining her. A young woman scared, alone, hopeful. Holding two babies. Loving two children she wouldn't get to raise. My throat tightened. I wondered if she ever forgave herself. If she ever healed. If she ever believed we would find each other. I wondered if she was still alive. And if she ever thought her wish might come true. I lay back in bed. But sleep didn't come. Not for hours. My mind kept replaying the day. The shock. The anger. The grief. The connection. And Liam. His face. His voice. His presence. Everything about him felt like a missing memory returning. Like something I had always been meant to know. Eventually exhaustion pulled me under. The kind of sleep where emotions finally collapse. When morning came, the sunlight felt too bright, too warm, too normal. Like the world outside had no idea mine had changed forever. I got up slowly, feeling heavy and raw. I walked downstairs. My adoptive parents were already awake. Sitting at the something they should have told me a long time ago. My stomach clenched. He said that after they adopted me, they received a letter from the agency, a letter mentioning a second child, a sibling, a twin. He paused, the pain in his eyes almost unbearable. He admitted they ignored it. They hid it. They were scared. My mother reached out and placed her hand on his arm. Her voice cracked when she said she begged him to tell me when I turned 18. But he refused. He thought the truth might take me from them. That once I knew, I would go searching. And he didn't want to lose me. Hearing that felt like being torn open all over again. I asked him if they realized what they stole from me, what they stole from us. He broke, right there at the table. Tears slipping down his face, something I hadn't seen since childhood. He said he knew. He knew they made a mistake. A huge one. He said he wished he could take it back. But he couldn't. All he could do was face it now. I sat there torn between love and betrayal. Between anger and understanding. Between the family who raised me and the brother I just found. Then my mother whispered that she wanted to meet Liam someday. Not to replace anything. Not to pretend. But because he was part of me. And she wanted to know the person her child had been searching for his whole life. The words softened something inside me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something close to it. I told them the truth. I wasn't ready to forget what they did. I wasn't ready to heal overnight. But I wasn't walking away either. Not yet. My mother reached across the table. Slow, gentle, offering her hand. He replied almost instantly. I'm here if you want to talk. Or sit. Or drive. Or breathe. Whatever you need. Something warm spread through my chest. Calmness. A belonging. I told my parents I needed to go out for a bit. They didn't question it. They just nodded. Fear in their eyes. But hope too. I walked outside. The air cool and fresh. And there, parked down the street, Liam's car. He stepped out when he saw me. His face soft. Concerned. But relieved. Like he'd been waiting. Like he needed to see me just as much as I needed to see him. I walked toward him slowly. Unsure. Unsteady. He didn't rush me. Didn't move. Just waited. When I reached him, he whispered, "Rough night." I nodded. Yeah. He gave a small sad smile. Same here. Then something inside me cracked open. All the fear. All the confusion. All the weight. And I whispered, I don't want to do this alone. He didn't hesitate. He said, You won't. Not anymore. I felt my breath breaking as I tried to understand anything at all. My twin just stood there in the doorway watching me like he already knew my pain. The room felt smaller than ever, like the walls were pushing closer. I wiped my tears, but they kept falling harder than before. He said my name again softly, like he had been saying it forever. The sound of it made my chest ache in a way I could not control. I finally looked up at him, and it felt like looking into a mirror I never knew I had. He took one slow step toward me like he did not want to scare me. I could see his hands shaking just like mine. He whispered that he had spent his whole life wondering where I was. Those words cut through me deeper than anything my parents had confessed. I asked him why neither of us knew how to fill it until this moment. The silence between us felt heavy but also strangely familiar. He walked a little closer and sat on the floor across from me. He said he wanted to hear everything about my life. I could barely speak, but I nodded because I wanted to hear his too. I felt scared but also safe in a way I had never felt before. My world was breaking, but something new was slowly forming in the pieces. I took a slow breath, trying to steady myself, but my voice still shook. I told him I always felt like there was something wrong with me. He listened without interrupting, like every word mattered. He said he felt the same, like a piece of him never fit anywhere. Hearing that made my throat tighten with a mix of hurt and relief. I looked at his face and saw years of questions in his eyes. He said he used to stare at crowds hoping to see someone who looked like him. I told him I used to do that too without knowing why. For a moment we just sat there searching each other's faces. He asked if I hated our adoptive parents now that I knew the truth. The question hit me harder than I expected. I said I did not know because my heart felt torn in two. They raised me with love, but they also kept him from me. They kept my truth locked away for years. He nodded like he understood even before I finished speaking. He said he was angry for both of us for all the years we lost. His voice cracked and he looked down at his hands. I realized he was hurting just as deeply as I was. I reached out slowly, unsure if it was okay. He looked up with tears in his eyes, the same tears I felt on my own face. When our hands finally touched, it felt like something inside me clicked. Like a part of me that had been missing finally came home. He whispered that he had dreamed of this moment so many times. I whispered that I told him I wanted to hear every single piece of it. The space between us felt less heavy, now more alive somehow. It felt like the first moment in my life that made sense. He started telling me about the home he grew up in. He said it was quiet most of the time, almost too quiet. He said his adoptive parents were kind but distant, like they cared but never fully reached him. I felt a deep sting in my chest because I knew that feeling too well. He said he always wondered why he felt so incomplete even though nothing was wrong on the surface. I told him I had felt that same empty space inside me for as long as I could remember. He looked at me with this gentle understanding that felt unreal. He said he used to sit on his bed at night thinking maybe somewhere out there someone had the same heartbeat as him. My breath caught because I had done the same thing without knowing why. He kept talking and his voice shook when he said he found out about me only a year ago. He said he wanted to come right away, but he was scared of how I would react. I felt another wave of emotion because he cared enough to worry about my feelings. He said he finally convinced himself that not knowing me hurt more than the fear of meeting me. I felt my eyes fill with tears again when he said that. He looked around my room like he wanted to memorize everything about my life. He asked about the photos on my wall and the drawings I kept hidden in a box under my bed. I told him those drawings were from nights when I felt alone but did not know why. He said he had two drawings of someone he imagined might exist. My heart trembled because it felt like our lives had been running parallel without touching. He told me he always believed the universe would eventually lead him to whatever he was missing. I whispered that maybe the universe was waiting for both of us to be ready. He smiled at me and it felt we sat there in that quiet room letting the truth settle between us. The pain was still there, but so was something new and stronger. For the first time in my life, I felt like my story was bigger than the lies that built it. I wiped the tears from my face. Liam watched me carefully. He did not move closer yet. I felt his presence beside me. It was steady and comforting. I said I did not know what to feel. He nodded slowly. He said that was okay. He said there was no right way to feel. I whispered I felt angry. He whispered he felt angry too. I said I hated that our parents kept us apart. He said he hated it too. I asked him if he ever dreamed about me. He said every night since he was a child. I told him I had felt the same emptiness. He said maybe that emptiness was us reaching for each other. I felt my chest tighten. He reached out slowly. Our hands met. Felt like everything clicked into place. I whispered his name softly. He whispered mine back. We both cried quietly. The room felt full of everything we missed. I told him I wanted to know everything about him. He said he wanted to tell me. We started talking about our childhoods. He talked about his home. I listened. I told him about mine. He listened. We compared stories. We laughed. We cried. We shared the small things that made us who we were. He said he wanted to meet my adoptive parents. I said I was not ready. He nodded. He said he understood. He said we could take our time. We did not need to rush. I felt a small warmth in my chest. Something I had never felt before. He smiled softly at me. I smiled back. Life does not always reveal its truths at the right time. Sometimes reunion can heal wounds we thought would never close. It can teach us patience and understanding. It can teach us that love is stronger than lies. Finding your twin is not just about discovering someone else. It is about discovering yourself. Even in betrayal there can be hope. Even in pain there can be connection. The past may have stolen time, but it cannot steal love, cannot steal the chance to rebuild. And sometimes the family we were given, and the family we were meant to find, can come together to create something beautiful, something whole, something real.